Hey Aquarius, what's going on? We are here with a timeless reading. Welcome. The first card that we have out is the Hierophant. The second card is Five of Swords. What immediately comes to mind when I see this is Hierophant and Five of Swords can be someone doing something a certain way that you may not agree with that. So this can be like certain traditions or certain beliefs that you can look at and maybe not agree with that. It can be like certain values, even the way that somebody is doing something. What this can mean too is that like when we have the Hierophant, this is potentially something that we can learn from, but having that Five of Swords there can be something that we may feel a bit put off by. And for those of you that you're in the energy of the Hierophant, there can be somebody that's looking at you and feeling like you could be standing in your beliefs in a way that can feel threatening to the person, like especially because all of the cards have a light side and a shadow side, okay? With the Hierophant, if you're in the energy of the Hierophant and it's like kind of moving over to a bit of a shadow side, it can be like spewing beliefs and whatnot and trying to sort of enforce them on other people and not giving people space to really be themselves. It can be this very righteous energy. So it's something to be mindful of. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing with this. There are other ways that this can be too, but that's immediately what's coming to mind, because just Hierophant, Five of Swords kind of feels like a... It's the notion of seeing somebody that is the Hierophant and feeling like that person can potentially be on like a high horse, which... When we see that, it's important to like break down the sides of this. If somebody is in the energy of the Five of Swords, okay, and looking at the Hierophant, Five of Swords perspective can say, wow, look at you on your high horse over there, like telling everybody what to do or what they should believe in, or even just if the Hierophant is keeping to themselves, Five of Swords can be like, I don't really have strong beliefs like that, or I feel like this is oppressive to me, and so have a problem with that. So that's how the Five of Swords can be perceiving it. Because Five of Swords is generally not this, okay, I'm taking what you're saying and I'm open to that. Five of Swords is like, I'm not open to this. And so this can feel offensive at times. From the Hierophant's perspective, this can be like, this is the way and I'm right and this is what I believe in, so why wouldn't you just be agreeing with me, to the Five of Swords. But it can be like a kind of a dominating energy. And it really does just depend on your situation. Like this can be maybe somebody that you're around where like maybe you're both of these characters. Maybe this person is the Hierophant and so are you, and each of you are also the Five of Swords to each other. But I definitely see overall this being like a clashing of beliefs and values. So when we have this, it can mean that there's like really something to learn here and really something to understand. And I think also too, not taking things personally can be something that helps loosen this a little bit, because fives are connected with something that's being worked out. And we also have Temperance there. I'd say this is also about not being so quick to judge either, even though you can feel set off by this. But I'd say too that like you really can be any of these energies here within this. Like this can also be something that you're witnessing that's going on. Maybe there's a really big clashing of values that's happening. When you see something like that, what you can learn about yourself is about your own belief systems, even if what you're being shown, it can possibly be the opposite of that. Hierophant can also be connected with code of conduct and morality as well. And so Hierophant can be an energy of somebody coming through and sort of like upholding one's vision in a very like solid type of way, where it's like, I really believe in this and I stand by this and this is how I live my life, like that type of thing. And so it's not always received well, and it can sometimes be a bit off-putting. And if you're in close proximity with somebody where you have this going on, like if you're the Hierophant in this setting, it can be something where you're being aware that maybe you want to allow your beliefs to be connected with you rather than enforcing them on another person that may have their own beliefs. And I feel like vice versa too, because if you're feeling a type of way about like somebody's beliefs, this can also be about recognizing that they have their own beliefs as well, and that also being part of this too. Because we have Temperance here, I do get the sense that this is something that's currently a process that's being worked through, and there's something valuable to gain and something valuable to learn from this, but it may not be an easy thing to sort of take in given this situation. What does Temperance hope to accomplish? Learning. Think also too, checking yourself too and seeing like if something is feeling triggering to you, look, why is that? What is this bringing up for you? What is Temperance hoping to accomplish? The Hierophant again. There can be some past stuff that this brings up for you that's being reconciled with. There can be some deep past stuff that's been sort of passed down the line that's coming up here. This can be ways in which things may have pushed you into some type of extreme. That can be part of this too. I'm seeing Hierophant come out to clarify Temperance, which I feel like just reinforces this. This has to do with belief systems and whatnot. Belief systems, traditions, cultures, what we are familiar with or what other people are familiar with, what's customary. And this Six of Cups, the Six of Cups that I have in this deck always gives me the vibe of feeling something connected to the past, but instead of this Six of Cups being the generic, like something that feels nostalgic, I see the Six of Cups in this deck as actually having a problem with something and it being from the past, but then it's surfacing now. And so I do feel like this definitely allows stuff from the past to be surfacing here, and it can be things that you feel like have not been worked out, obviously, because this is getting to you. So, which happens when we have something that's going on. So this is really showing you things about yourself that you can be seeing and say, like, why does that bother me so much? Or why do I have so much of a problem with this? What is this telling me about myself and where I stand and what I believe in or what I don't believe in and what I believe may be moral or immoral? Because things like that can be connected with the Hierophant, or what I feel like is normal or not normal, or customary or not customary, or traditions that I want versus ones that I don't want, what I do resonate with, what I don't resonate with. And so learning about this. But at first, I think when something comes through and it feels like quite a bit of a force with the Hierophant, there can be a like wanting to push something away because it may not agree with like the system that you've developed, or even just what you're used to, what you're familiar with. And so when this comes through, it can be something that immediately you may want to turn away from because of it feeling threatening in some way. And instead of keeping it there, going deeper and saying, why? Where is that coming from? Why do I feel that way? What is this bringing up for me? How do I work with this? Let's say it too. On maybe a less severe scale, this can be somebody that you're interacting with that you can feel like is kind of stubborn. You can feel like they have a particular way of doing things, that they're sort of set in their ways a bit, and it can be something that you don't like. The energy of the Hierophant, when it's in its shadow, can be a little bit demanding, I'd say, and it can be kind of bossy too. And so this is something where you can feel like maybe you feel like you're being forced sort of under the rulership of this energy, and you may not like that, and you may be wanting to get out from underneath it, because Hierophant in its shadow can be somewhat oppressive to others that are not in agreement with that. And so that can also be something that's being worked out too. You know, like, I'm just getting an example of this can be like a boss or something that you're working with, and they may have these very strict rules or way of doing things, but it's not sort of connected with maybe like the company in general. It can be just about their personal stuff. And this can be something that you're working with where it may be something that feels kind of strange to you, or that you don't necessarily agree with, and you may feel like it's being enforced upon you a bit here. And this can be figuring that out, working that out, or this can be a parent or something. When we have the Hierophant, there can be somebody that's in some type of position of authority that is connected with this in some way. And there can be a bit of a disagreement of how that authority is being used, and whether it's being used appropriately or not, whether it's being used to benefit collectively, or whether it comes from maybe a more self-centered place. Even too, the Hierophant can be somewhat arbitrary at times too, depending on how someone is channeling that energy. Meaning it can just be like, these are the rules and this is how it's been, but when you question it, there isn't really an explanation for it. It's just like, that's what we've been doing. Arbitrary like that. Like, there's not really a deeper reasoning behind it, except that that's just what we've been doing. So there's not like so much logic behind it. Or if there is, like, nobody can really find it. So, but I definitely say that this coming up for you, there can be this feeling with the Five of Swords of like wanting to push up against this energy, wanting to rebel against it, and you can feel that it would have you doing basically the same thing to it that you're feeling it's doing to you. And so how does that energy actually get transmuted? Rather than you then becoming the Hierophant in your own way to sort of match this energy and oppose it. How can you actually maybe even neutralize this or understand it, rather than feeling like it's sort of like bringing this stuff up and then you turn into that opposite, equal and opposite force? There's something else that can be done here within the process, but it's going to take... We have Three of Pentacles. There's going to have to be an opening up so you can say, like, what can I take from this? What can I learn from this? What can I understand about this? That doesn't mean you need to look at it and say, how can I learn about this so I can agree with it? That's something else entirely. This is more so like, what can I understand about this? What can I see about this? What can this tell me beyond just me being like offended here, or beyond me having a problem with this? What's something deeper that I can take from that besides just the surface level reaction of my ego here in this instance? And I will say this too, for those of you that you are the Hierophant in this situation, you may be pushing a little bit too hard to energies, let's say people that are not necessarily receptive. And it may be something that you can tone down a little bit or dial back a little bit, because you may be pushing to energies that are not receptive to this, pushing beliefs. And that can be something that is, if you're trying to teach something, if you're trying to show something, if you're trying to illuminate something, you can be doing it in a way where you're not creating, you're not encouraging and opening up. You're actually creating a defensiveness because of the way that you're approaching this. And so this is also something that can be learned as well. Because it can kind of be a, like, well, I believe in this. What do you mean you don't agree with me? And then it turning into that type of thing. where it feels like closing down here, when really, if anything is going to be learned and there needs to be an openness for receptivity here, there's going to need to be a different approach taken with this. And learning how to do that, figuring out how to do that. Because I'll say this too, the Hierophant really can have something to show, something very valuable to teach, but it's going to not be received if you are not sort of setting the stage for reception. And so part of this feels like needing to be diplomatic with the approach and needing to be, I think, like kind of empathetic as well, if this is going to go over well and there's going to be reception to this. There needs to be a sort of like pooling energies more into the middle rather than there being such an apparent opposition here. Some of you, this is about a relationship that you have. Some of you, this can be a living situation. It can be somewhere where you're sort of like a regular within that environment. Okay, so that's why this is all coming up. So these can be like kind of opposing views that you have with another person or like another entity, where Hierophant is coming through and saying, this is my idea of how things work, but cannot be approaching this in the most open way, even though the energy of the Hierophant is like, I want things to work in a functional way. I actually do feel like there can be an agreement that's come to about things, but I get to that there's a feeling of someone like not wanting to give here with the Five of Swords. Let's see why. Well, actually, I feel like it's kind of obvious. If there's a certain way that things could function best, and actually if like bitterness or feeling threatened like wasn't involved in this as well, everybody actually might be on the same page with one another. But this feels kind of like if the person that's in the energy of the Hierophant is pushing too much and being too bossy and too controlling in that position, it feels like it doesn't allow an openness for there to be that collaboration and for sort of the rules to be agreed upon here. This feels like some type of like the rules for engaging in this, because I get the feeling that with the Hierophant, this feels like a community, okay? Even if it's just you and another person, you guys create something together with one another, a relationship, a household, it can be a family, it can be a community of some sort. Whatever this is, when we have the Hierophant, I'm kind of seeing this as like an institution of some sort, okay? So it's like an entity in and of itself. And the Hierophant will be sort of the way that it's appropriate for this to work and the standards of this. But having the Five of Swords here, there's something that needs to be addressed because I'm not seeing total openness to this. It's like the rule book sort of being there, but I'm seeing somebody be in a space where it's like, even though they may normally be happy to give, or they're very capable of actually showing up and meeting those standards, there's some type of issue here. And I think that it's about the approach. It's like if you're coming to somebody and saying like you want something from them, or you want them to do something, or you have like a suggestion or whatever, there's a difference between like bossing them around and telling them what to do and being sort of in this position that feels like an authority figure, when I feel like there needs to be like maybe more equality, even though I feel too like everybody will come to the same agreement at the end of the day. It feels like this like weird power play that's involved in this is why there's a lack of receptivity and where this comes from. So I actually get the feeling that everybody would be on the same page, but there's something going on with power play and authority that is setting the stage for there to be resistance. Because this doesn't feel like... It feels like the Hierophant is vying for that role of being like, I'm in charge of everything, but it's like there are multiple energies that are involved in this, and I feel like that is where the resistance comes from. And it can be that type of attitude as well, even though you can say that if that weren't happening, everybody would be agreeing naturally. And that it feels like it doesn't allow things to work, because I'm seeing a resistance where Six of Pentacles would be people showing up and feeling like it actually works within the interaction. It feels like there's a problem because of Five of Swords looking at the Hierophant and being like, who do you think you are? I kind of get that feeling from this. But I think like if the Hierophant were like dressed down a bit here, energetically, that there actually wouldn't be this offset where it feels like I'm in charge and you listen. It feels like there needs to be like more equality here. Because even if there were more equality, I don't think that it's a problem with the rules or anything like that, or like the standards or the function by which things work here. It feels more so like it has to do with this weird authority thing that's going on within this. There are also protective measures being taken with the Five of Swords too. That's what I'm seeing. Five of Swords is being clarified by Five of Cups. So I would say that this is somebody that's like copying an attitude in some way, or not totally receptive because of feeling like they've been hurt and that hasn't been reconciled. And maybe there's also a lack of accountability. Maybe the person that's in the role of the Hierophant is like actually maybe meant to be taking charge and meant to be the leader, and in some way there has been some type of like trespassing that has occurred, or some type of incident that has happened, and there's a lack of accountability for this. And maybe actually the onus of this does fall on the Hierophant, but there hasn't been an admitting to this, and so maybe there's a mistrust there within the relationship. Five of Swords, I'm not open. I'm doing this to protect myself from being let down again. And so there's a like, I'm not following your lead here because of that. I feel resistant to following your lead here, even if I do agree with you, because when you were leading before, something has happened and I felt hurt by that. I felt upset by that. And I do feel like this hasn't fully been reconciled. Like there's still a processing emotionally that's happening with this. Let's get two more cards out. The thing about this is that it does feel like conflict resolution is needed here. And I do see that if the conflict resolution is successful, it very much feels like everybody can feel satisfied with things. So this isn't one of those times where it's like incompatible values. It like no matter how hard you try to work with this, it's not going to work out. This feels like there actually are compatible values, but there is having a hard time working within this because of like what has happened, and this has not been resolved, and it feels like it's making things difficult now. I do feel a mistrust here. Yeah, I feel kind of if Hierophant is coming through and saying, hey, be in this exchange with me, be in this interaction with me. Five of Swords is saying, I'm protecting myself from getting involved in that, from giving my energy into this. Because I'm protecting myself. Because I'm not wanting to enter into this situation and then feel like something goes sideways. It's like this. If you and another person agree that, like, when you have an interaction, there will be an exchange, like, you'll give them a leaf and they'll give you a rock. I feel kind of like there was something that happened with you and this person where, like, if you're the one that's the Five of Swords, you showed up and, like, brought your leaf with you, and it's like they took it from you, but they didn't give you the rock. It's like something had happened where I feel like now Hierophant is coming around and saying, hey, like, get involved in this exchange with me. And you're like, I remember last time that we had that exchange, I showed up and I had what we agreed upon I was going to give you, but you showed up empty-handed and you didn't give it to me. And so I got taken advantage of. And so that's why I'm seeing this, like, lack of openness here within it. Why the Five of Swords is in the position of the Five of Swords of saying, like, you abused the position that you had and now I don't trust you. And so even though it's like, when the agreement was the rock and the leaf being exchanged, there was no problem with that because everybody was good with that. It was like when that was not followed through with, and that's where the problem has come from. And so even though I do see values being compatible, it feels like somebody failed to do something that they like promised to do, or that was like agreed upon to be part of the exchange. And so now the person that feels like I was the one that got the short end of this stick here feels like they need to protect themselves because of that. And there can be like a rigidness that's coming up within this of sort of holding one to a standard where it feels like there's a bit of inflexibility. I feel too like this, like the energy sort of needs to step up here with the Hierophant because of wanting things to function in a way that feels fair and agreed upon by everybody involved, so it like works best for everybody, and whatever it was that happened before, it needs to be reconciled. Because this feels like definitely something happened in that moment of that interaction that I think needs to be worked with and needs to be addressed here. Otherwise, there's a like not wanting to do that again because of not wanting to be disappointed again, not wanting to be let down again, and feeling like I put my trust in you, I got hurt, and now I'm not coming in here and feeling receptive to you, and I don't want to get involved in this again just so you can disappoint me. I'd say from everything that I'm seeing though, that this is a work in progress and that this is something that's being addressed. And I get the feeling too, like the reason why this is what the reading is about is to sort of break down what it is that's going on so you can see more clearly what to be working on here within this. It feels like that's the point of it, to say like, this is why that's happening, this is where these feelings are coming from, because I'm seeing you be in the process of figuring things out currently. And this being what's coming up here within this, and this pointing out key pieces that maybe weren't being seen before or weren't understood before. Because I feel too, like I'm very much seeing like all sides of this within the reading. Like I can understand the Hierophant, I can understand the Five of Swords here. I'm also seeing this as being everybody's individual process as well. Make sure that you are speaking honestly when communication is happening. Like, be clear about things. That can be something that comes up here within this. I want to say this again about Hierophant and Five of Swords. Five of Swords can look at the Hierophant and say, when I put my faith in you, you are meant to guide me, you are meant to protect me, you are meant to be there as like a guiding force within my life. And it feels like there's some type of, I'm meant to trust you, that you're looking out for my best interest. It feels like there's something connected with that has happened. Like, and for those of you that this is you're seeing this play out in a relationship with another person, there can be something where there was some amount of trust that was broken, whether it was on purpose or not, which it's not really about that. This feels like I had an expectation. Five of Swords looks at the Hierophant and says, I had an expectation of you, and you showed up and you were playing that role as if I could rely on you, and something happened and there was like a break in that. And that was the genesis of where this resistance is coming from. That's why the Five of Swords is like blocking the Hierophant right now. That's where this is coming from. That's why Five of Swords is not super receptive to the Hierophant currently. And that can be too why, like, we have energies where cooperation is like needed in order for like progress to be made and for things to be resolved. But that Five of Swords is not in a collaborative energy. That's not a collaborative energy being channeled. This is more so like, oh, I feel like you were looking out for yourself. No, I'm looking out for me. And it sort of breaks that. So there's that splitting that's happening. But because this feels like something where it's a relationship, there's going to have to be a working together. So that's what's going on with this. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.